So where we stopped yesterday is just before creating our first sample desktop flow. Let me share my screen. Tell me if my PowerPoint slide is visible for you. Okay, so this is a slide where we stopped yesterday. Let's do a small demo to get our hands on the tool to understand it. Now I head over to Power Automate Desktop, click on New Flow and type my first flow. Leave this as disabled. I will explain that at a later stage. So it's loading up. So it stores the flows in the Azure Cloud Dataverse. That's why it takes time sometimes to download it from there. Generally for the first time only. Okay, so a flow designer window has opened and we have a blank canvas in front of us. This is the workspace, the work area where we'll be building the flows. The list of actions are there on the left hand side, as it's called as commands in Automation Anywhere, activities in UiPath and so forth. So the simple flow that we are going to do is to display a message. So I go in the search box of the actions and type display. I can see display message. I will drag and drop onto the workspace. Okay, so I've dragged the display message action and we are going to fill some of its properties. The first is the message box title. Can give it something as first flow. A message to be displayed in any programming language or any tool. The first program is always hello world. Okay, yep. So simply I will leave it with that and click on save. And this triangle button towards the right hand side is the run or the play button to run any bot. If I close the variables pane, you can see the full wording over here, run, and I click on run. At the bottom, it has shown the time elapsed and it has shown the message of our first bot. This was the title that we had given and this is the message that we had given. I click on OK. Okay, so that was our first simple flow. What's next in our agenda? So we are going to understand the Power Automate Desktop's interface, the main console, the flow designer, and any other different tabs so that you know where to navigate when you have to find something or do something on the tool. I'll head over to the pad tool. This is the main console where you will see the list of already built flows. This is the one that we just built. On the left hand side, there are three tabs: home, flows, and examples. We are right now in the flows tab. When you go to the home tab, by default, this is what opens up when you open the pad tool for the first time. You will see some examples and a guided tour. You can take a look at it later on at leisure. It will give a tour about the tool. At the top, there is a Go Premium button, which we have used to enable the trial. Here at the top, environments is mentioned. I will explain the concepts of environments and tenants shortly. Some of you have got personal productivity. For some, it is the default environment and so on. The settings button, it has two further tabs, general and data collection. In the general, the first checkbox is about this pad application, whether it should auto start as soon as the Windows operating system boots, and whether it should close or keep the application running is the second checkbox. A recent feature is to use the dark preview. Some people prefer the dark mode. This is the dark mode. Then monitoring of notifications. There are three types of notifications, and when I'll run a flow, I will explain each one of them. It is the small thumbnail type window that comes up at the bottom right hand corner when we ran the RPA challenge yesterday. I will run it again today and show you for all the other options. Here you can set a shortcut key for pausing or resuming a flow. Here you can set a shortcut for stopping the flow. This checkbox is to display a confirmation dialog box when invoking flows externally, for example, from a cloud flow or from any other external application through a URL. So what will happen is when you call this desktop flow from a cloud flow, it will show a pop-up dialog box as a security measure. So you might want to keep this unchecked so that you need not have to go and click the OK button on the dialog box frequently. Then the check for update buttons. Check for updates. If you already have the latest update, it will show you this message. If you tick this checkbox, show update notifications, in case there is an update by Microsoft, there will be a pop-up in front of you saying or asking you to update it now or update it at a later stage or remind you later. And this link will take you to the documentation about the general settings. Speaking of the data collection tab, it's about the Microsoft data collection and the privacy statement. Coming back to the flows tab, now when I hover my mouse over my first flow, everything is disabled. That's because the flow is open on my machine, the flow that we just built. Let's take a look at the RPA challenge demo flow. When I select it, the options that I see are the play or the run icon, the stop button that will get enabled when it starts running, the edit pencil icon to go into the editor to edit the flow. Again, the properties window. Now this properties is different than the one we saw in the settings. The flow properties is individual to this flow. So the general section tab has got the name of the flow and a optional description where you can write what the flow does, or you can use even AI Copilot here to generate a description that we will look at in the AI topic. Run with keyboard shortcut. Then if you want to run this flow in picture mode, you can enable this toggle, which means that a separate session, a separate window will open within your desktop itself, and inside that window this bot will run. I'll explain it in more details when we go to the PIP or the attended unattended run section. Then the on error section is, as it says, it's a checkbox to add screenshots to the logs. In case of an error, an automatic screenshot is captured and these logs are viewable on the cloud portal. I will show it when we go to the cloud portal section of logging, debugging, and so forth. And by the way, anything that has a diamond icon over here, these are all premium features. In case of any doubt, you can click on this eye information icon and see what it does, this feature does. Then the flow timeout toggle, as it says, when you enable it, it will allow you to set a maximum runtime of say seconds, minutes, or hours. For example, let's say you know that you have built a flow which will run only 10 minutes. So you can set perhaps a 15 minutes timer so that it doesn't go beyond that time. And as it says over here, the flow run will stop after it reaches the maximum allowed running time. We go to the details tab. Here is the name that we created when we created this ID, the flow creation and modification date, the run URL. So this particular flow has a specific unique URL which you can use to run it from external sources. Those could be even from a command prompt. For example, I copy this, and if I perhaps go to my run window and hit enter, it should run the flow. This is one way of invoking the run URL while it runs. There it is. It has downloaded the flow from the cloud. So I was saying is while it runs, other ways of running it through this URL is you can even hit the URL on the browser address bar of the browser. It will run the flow. DOS prompt, the run menu that I just showed, or just showing you. It says the flow is running. So by the way, you can even use the Windows task scheduler to schedule your flows. But scheduling is a premium option, premium feature. You need a paid license. Hopefully I'll be able to quickly minimize this. No? Yeah. Round one has started. So this is the flow that I have invoked using the start run menu using the run URL. So I have just mentioned multiple ways of running a desktop flow using the URL. Today it looks like it is even slower than yesterday. Round 10, yeah. Yesterday it was 31 seconds, today 42 seconds. But yeah, that was not the point of our exercise. So if you saw that I ran this flow using the run URL from the start run menu, that was the one of the uses of the run URL. Now flow ID, sometimes you need the ID of the flow perhaps for troubleshooting, logging purpose to see which flow you're talking about. So this flow ID is already contained inside the run URL. The schema version that I mentioned yesterday, in which schema is this flow stored behind the scenes. So this is a new V2 version is the latest, and PowerFX enabled. If you saw when we created the my first flow, we did not enable the PowerFX toggle. So even this flow is not PowerFX enabled, and that's why it's showing here as no. And at the top menu bar, you see a new flow button, then the refresh, just in case you can't see your flows loaded over here or not seeing the flow that you need, you can click the refresh button over here. Then the run button, it has got a drop down to run it directly on this particular machine, this desktop, or again the run in picture option that I mentioned earlier. Then the stop button, which is disabled right now, the editing the flow. Then the ellipsis is for renaming the flow or creating a copy of it. You can even create a desktop shortcut and run your flow from there. The delete button, and again the properties window. So I believe we covered everything from the main console. So at the top you have this option to sign out this ID and use another ID. And here you can change the environments. For example, if there is dev test prod, you can change it from here. Now we will come into the console and learn about its different tabs. As I mentioned earlier, I'll mention once again, anything that is important, I'll mention it multiple times. This is the workspace where you will be building your flows. This is the action pane from where you will be dragging the actions and dropping it onto the workspace. This entire window is the workflow designer. In the actions, you will be seeing different actions for different applications like Access, Excel, Outlook, and so on. Then the menu bar here, file menu has got save, save as, and exit. Edit has got options to undo, redo, cut, copy, paste. If there are multiple flow actions, you can select all or hit the Control A key. If something is selected, you need to clear that selection. You can use clear selection button. If let's say two out of four actions are selected and you need to deselect the ones that are already selected but select the other two ones, you will invert the selection using this action, this command. Then let's say there are multiple lines of actions. You can go to a particular line by clicking this. For example, right now there is only one line, and if you type 1 and hit enter, it will lay the focus over that action. Then the debug menu is the run that we saw earlier. The one you see over here is the same run, or a shortcut key is F5. Run next action we are going to see in debugging the desktop flows module. Pausing of a flow in between, stopping, breakpoints, all of these we'll be seeing in the debugging section. In the tools menu, you have the recorder. Recorder has its own dedicated section. Inspecting of UI elements. When you capture the UI elements of external applications, you can use this feature. The browser extension, in case you did not install the extensions when you installed the pad tool, you can reinstall it from here. Power Automate agent for virtual desktops is used for interacting with Citrix based applications, anything that is a virtual desktop. Asset library, this icon is the same as the one you see here, where you can create custom actions. We'll talk about it in its own topic. DLP policies are data loss prevention policies. They are configured by your Power Platform admin, just in case if you try to interact with any Windows web-based applications. If you see some data loss prevention error messages, then it means that your admin has configured some DLP policies. It's not allowing you to interact with automation. So that is something to be checked by the admin. View is the errors panel. So I'll show you when an error pops up, there is a separate panel that comes up. You can use this search box also. Let's say we have one action called as display message, and I want to search the word display. So it shows me the line number where that action is. And if I double click on it, it will take me to that action. Right now there is only one action. That's why it's jumping over there and it's highlighting that. So this search box is to search inside the flow, whereas there is something called as search variables also. We'll come to that when we speak about this pane. Coming back to the view menu, variables is the variables pane. You can toggle it on and off. UI elements is this second section where user interface elements, any UI elements that you capture like text boxes, buttons, labels, that will show up in this tab. If any images you capture using image based actions over here, those will come up in the images pane over here. And if you have rearranged something, if you want to bring it back to the default layout, you can click the default layout menu. Help is mostly the options are the one that you see from the main console, the documentation, the learn website of Microsoft, going back to the community of Power Automate, kind of giving the feedback in case of any errors or suggestions about the tool, the blog, and if you need to send some troubleshooting logs, and the version of the pad tool. So if I close this, you can see the full name, recorder, run next action, asset library is the custom actions. Now I'll go into each of these panes. The one that has an X prefixed and suffixed with a curly brace, those are variables. Any variables that we use in the flow will show up here. We have a separate topic on variables, so I'll talk about it at that time. UI elements tab, as I said, they will hold all the user interface elements. We'll be using that much often in the course. And the images, whichever you capture using image based actions, will show up over here. Again, here in the flow designer, you also have this environment name. At the bottom status bar, you have a status ready showing there are no errors and the bot is ready to run, ready to test. When you click on run, it will show the timer that we saw earlier, the elapsed time of the bot. So right now 0 actions are selected. If I click on this, it will show as 1 selected action. There is only one action total in this flow, one subflow. A main flow is also called as a subflow. I will explain what subflows are in its own section. Run delay is the time taken between two actions. For now, quickly I'll create one more action by copy pasting it. Now the run delay means the time taken from this action to this action in milliseconds. As you can see, you can start it from 1 milliseconds to 10,000. So the lower is better if you want to run the flows quickly. But keep in mind, since user interface based interactions like keystrokes and mouse clicks will be there, so you need to keep the value accordingly. All right, I hope we have covered the flow designer also. What else do we have? Console, flow designer, other tabs. Let me see if I covered all tabs from the main screen. Examples. Yeah, let me go to examples. So here you have Excel automation, web automation, desktop automation, date time handling, PDF automation, text manipulation, and scripting and flow control. So these are sample flows given by Microsoft as examples. You can take a look at them at the right time. What do we have next? Yeah, I have been saying that I'll explain environments and tenants later on. So I've shown you from where at the top section of the tool you can see the environments, and the tenant is the top layer. So speaking of the two concepts, I'll begin with environments at first. It is a space that holds, manages, and shares the tools and components of the Power Platform. Now, what are the tools and components of the Power Platform? Those are the data, any Power Apps that you have built, any flows that you have built, any Power BI dashboards or chatbots you have built. Those will come under environments. So it is a space to hold all of these things, whereas a tenant is an upper level than the environment, meaning it is a container for one or more environments, and that could be at an org level or one instance of the Power Platform. Now I'll show this to you diagrammatically, which will help you understand. And both of these are created by the Power Platform admin in the Power Platform Admin Center. Power Platform has something called as the Power Platform Admin Center, which is generally used by the admins for setting up of security roles and giving permissions and configuring of environments, tenants, and so forth. Yeah, this is the outer layer is the tenant, the dotted blue line at an org level. These are the environments. You can have development, staging, production environment. Again, you can have the environment segregated into region wise, country wise, India, Australia, USA as shown over here. Or you can even have these environments segregated at a department level. For example, sales department, purchase department, finance department, so that one department cannot access the data of another department, or the roles can be segregated among them. So these are environments and tenants. That was about module 2. Now another URL that I wanted to share is some more details about the environments and tenants, how it can be configured. If you want to learn more about it, take a detailed look. So let's begin with module 3, which is debugging the desktop flows. We will see the multiple debugging features available in PAD. Okay. So the topics we are going to cover under this module are, first we will see how we will step through the flow. Step through is a feature in all programming languages also, where we go one line of code at a time or one line of action at a time. How will we use breakpoints so that we can intentionally pause the flow temporarily at a particular point? We run the flow from a specific line of action. Edit an action. How to disable actions. How to move, rearrange, reorder actions. How to modify variables during debugging, because that is part of debugging topic. And the use of subflows for easy debugging and modularity. Beginning with the first topic, stepping through the flow. Debugging process, as I said, it's been there since the programming ages. It's the process of making sure that our flow works as expected and it produces the correct outputs. Therefore, we will be conducting a debugging process, and this is used to identify and fix errors or to find the root cause of any issues. So during development, the developer debugs the code to check whether they are getting the correct output for the intended input. So it involves analyzing the behavior of the flow and even tracing the execution of the flow, like which path the flow is taking, whether it is executing correctly or not. And stepping through is a part of debugging. It will run the flow one action at a time. So running action by action is a part of stepping through, and that is done through multiple ways from the editor, which I have already spoken in the a short while ago. But as we can see, it can be available from the top command bar, from the debug menu, and from the by doing a keyboard shortcut. I'll explain all that on the tool. So let's check it out in action. For debugging, obviously, we will need some sample actions over here. So what I'll do is I will take a variable and set its value, and the action for that is set variable. I will drag and drop to the beginning of the flow as a first line. As soon as I drag and drop, I am asked to fill up its properties. So variable is a container that holds data, and this data can be of different types. Again, we are going to talk about variable data types separately. So for now, we are going to set a variable and call it, give it a name. Let's say first name, and give one dummy name. The value of John will be assigned to the variable called first name. That is about this action. Now I save it. I click here. We have already seen copy pasting. So there are either you can do a Control C, Control V after selecting that action, or you can go into this ellipsis and do a copy paste, or you can right click on it and you will get the same context menu. So this time let's do it from here. Copy. And the way of pasting it is, let's say you want to paste another set variable in between these two actions. So you need to click the destination line of code. For example, if I click on the second line of action, it will paste above that, one line above that. So I do a Control V this time, and you can see it has pasted one line above the last line. Now I have to change this to a different variable name. Here I am going to capture the last name of the person and save it. Now we'll do something else too. We'll capture the current date and time. So let me type date time, and the action for that is get current date time. I will drag it after the set variables. So the properties it has got is either you want to retrieve the date and time both, or date only. Let's take both. There are different time zones that you can configure. Let's keep it default to the system time zone, which is IST. Here you see the variables produced, meaning the output of this action get current date time will be stored in a variable called current date time. And this is again changeable. It can be changed. You can rename it to something else. Right now I'm keeping it as it is. I'm not changing it. And the toggle button here says, just say, for example, I don't want an output coming out from this action, so I turn it off. So right now we want the current date and time, so I will enable it and click on save. Now it's time to run the flow because we want to check certain debugging options. As we've seen, we run it from the run button. In the status bar, the elapsed time has started, the counter. So it has run all the actions and displayed the message. As you can see in the variable section, the current date and time shows up the current date and time, and the first name is assigned as John that we had assigned over here. The second name Doe has been assigned to the last name variable. Now we'll go a little bit further, and in this message box we'll try to capture or mention the variables that we had captured over here. For example, my name is, if you type it this way, give a space bar. Now you know that the first name is stored in a first name variable and last name in last name, and get current date and time is current date time variable. So the button that you see here, the X prefixed and suffixed by a curly brace, is the variable picker. When once you click that, you will be able to see all the list of those variables that you used in your flow. The one that we want is first name, and as soon as you do that, a prefix and suffix of % symbol is enclosed around that variable. That is because a variable in Power Automate Desktop is denoted by a % notation before and after the variable name. Now I'll do one more thing. I'll put a space bar over here, and this time I will pick up the second name or the last name. I'll double click on it. I see the last name again prefixed and suffixed using %sign. Now I click over here and put a full stop and hit enter so that it goes to the new line. We have also captured the date and time and we want to print it, display it. I again pick the variable picker. This time my values are stored in the current date time variable. I double click it and I get this variable. Let's add some text prior to it. The date and time is. Okay. So far, is everything clear related to whatever I did, or any doubts about variables? We have a separate topic on variables, but so far any questions? No? Okay. Okay, Mayura. I'll click on save. Now what we have done is capture the first name, last name, the current date and time, and simply printing it or displaying it in a display message box. Let's run the flow. And we have correctly got the values as we had configured in those actions. My name is, and then first name, last name coming from the variables. The date and time is again coming from the current date and time. So the first debugging feature that we wanted to see is running action by action from the top command bar. So you can see this bar. If I hover my mouse, or maybe if I close this, you will see this run next action button. That is for running it action by action level basis. I just click it once and leave it. Let's wait. At the bottom left hand corner, you can see the timer kicking. As you can see, this color over here, I'm sorry, this color over here, that's the compiler. It's on the compiler, or the flow of the execution is on line number 1, because I have stepped through only one line at a time. If I do it once again, it will go second time, then third time, fourth time, and finally display the output. So this is debugging it line by line using the top command bar. So the output is there behind. I've just pulled it over. That was one way of doing it. Then from the debug menu and the keyboard shortcut, if I again start from the debug menu, you can see run next action, and the third is the shortcut option F10. So I'll do a run next action from here. The timer has started. The flow execution is on first line. Now this time I'll use this option, and the third time I will try to do a shortcut key of F10. Yeah, I pressed F10 just now and it went on to the third line. Let's do it once again from here, and once again to bring up the message box. So this is debugging or stepping through the flow using 3 different options we have seen. What else do we have? Using breakpoints. Let's speak about breakpoints. So it's temporarily pausing the execution of the flow at one or more lines. You can have multiple breakpoints so that you can, while you're testing, you can check whether the execution is correctly happening or not. And that is running without breakpoints, inserting breakpoints, clicking next to a line number is one of the ways of inserting breakpoints. Don't worry, I'll be showing a demo of it from the debug menu and again as a keyboard shortcut. So run without breakpoints, we have already seen when you press F5 or the play icon, it will run without breakpoints. No breakpoint is inserted. Now the second bullet here says insert breakpoint. What we are going to do is insert a breakpoint, and that is done using, if I just next to this number 3, line number 3, if I click here, it will insert a breakpoint. This icon is for a breakpoint. And now when I run the flow from the beginning, it will stop the execution on line number 3. Let's do that. Okay, it has stopped at line number 3, and you can see only the first name and last name, these 2 lines have been executed, whereas pad has assigned the default date time to current date time because that has not been executed yet. Now once I step it through the next line, you will see the current date and time will be populated. And then finally the message box. The way to clear the breakpoint is that once again, if you click over there, it will take out the remove the breakpoint. You can have multiple breakpoints like this on the second line and fourth line. Your execution will stop first at the second line, then directly at the fourth line. If you have multiple breakpoints and if you want to remove all of them once, you click on remove all breakpoints. All of them are gone. So you saw clicking next to the line number 3 here. This is one way. Then from the debug menu, again in the debug menu, you have the toggle breakpoint. If I just now press this menu, since my line number 3 get current date and time has got focus, it will put a breakpoint over there. And then the keyboard shortcut. Did you guys notice what was the keyboard shortcut? Let me see if you guys are paying keen attention. F9. Yeah. F10 was for F10 was for executing one line at a time. This is yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one we are in this keyboard shortcut for breakpoints. Okay, fine. So what else do we have? Next is other debugging features. So running the flow from a specific location, we will see that. Let's do that now itself. Let's run it from, oops. So what we are going to look at is running the flow from a specific location. I'll toggle the variable bar because I'm going to show you something. So the values that are shown here are from the previous run. I will clear those values using this icon, the rubber eraser icon. The values have gone. Now we will run it from directly from the current date and time. You can do it either through right click, run from here option, or Alt F5, or through the ellipsis icon over here, run from here. Now I'm going to click the run from here. Now I have not executed the first two lines of code. Imagine a flow where you have plenty of lines of code. As you can see, my name is, it did not capture the first name and last name because I did not execute those two lines. So sometimes during our testing, there are hundreds of lines of codes. We need not run the entire flow from the beginning. We want it to run from some middle point, and this is how it's done. Editing an action, multiple ways are, one is, let's say the display message box. I want to edit this action. I double click on it. It opens up the properties of that action, and now I can make changes to it. I can edit it. That is one way. Another way is through the ellipsis icon, the edit button over here, or if you click here, you can hit enter on it also. And then the fourth way was right click. Multiple ways are there. Right click and edit. Disabling actions. Yes, let's do that. Now I click on the fourth action. I right click and disable this action using this option over here. I don't need this action. I don't want to display anything. I simply want to run it. As you can see, it has grayed out, and when I run the flow, this time it should not show me a display message pop-up. That's it. You can see status is ready, means the flow has completed. What's next? Disabling, moving, reordering, rearranging flow actions. Let's enable it back. So now this time we will move it and rearrange from line number 3 to line number 1. This is how you drag and drop. That is one way. Other ways are you can right click, cut from here. Earlier we copied, pasted it. Now why is the error showing up? Because we have cut the day, get current date and time, and we are using it in this action. So the errors pane has come up, and I had told you that I'll be showing you the error pane. So the error pane, what it does is, so it will give you the error, the line number, which main or subflow it has. This is the eye icon to view the error details. It shows up the error details, which line number, which action, and what was the name of the action, which subflow, and the exact error message. It says variable current date and time doesn't exist because we have cut it. Apart from errors, there is also a warnings tab. I'll bring up a warning and show you. Okay, perhaps I can do that now itself. First, let's paste what we have cut. So if you remember, when we want to paste it at a particular line, I want to paste this action above the first line. So I click on the first line and do a Control V. You can see the get current date time now becomes the first line. So this is reorder, arranging, and you can do it by right click also. Cut, copy, paste, move up, down from here. Again through the ellipsis button, move up, down, cut, copy, paste. Now coming back to what I was going to show you, that was about the warnings. If you go into get current date and time and the second parameter, this says that a specific time zone functionality, this parameter is going to be deprecated by Microsoft soon, meaning they are going to remove this option soon in some of the pad versions. Let me select that and just click save. Now, as soon as I did that, can you see the bottom right hand corner in the error list? It shows 1. Hope you are able to see on my screen sharing the error list 1. Are you guys able to see? Okay. When I click on that, this time there are no errors, but there is a warning. What is that warning? The option specific time zone in the time zone property will be deprecated and will become unavailable soon. That was the warning. So we should not use deprecated actions or features in our flow because they are going to go away and it won't work in production. It will cause problems. So let me bring it back to what it was originally. System time zone. Yeah, modifying variables during debugging is the last feature. Now I'll clear this earlier values using this icon. Now let me put a breakpoint over. Let's do one thing. Let me put a breakpoint and get current date and time and run the flow. So it has executed the first 2 lines of actions and given me the first name and last name, and these are default values. Now I am in debug mode. It's still on the breakpoint, and I want to modify this variable called first name for testing purposes. Imagine you are doing some testing and some mathematical operation or anything. I have double clicked on the variable. Now I give a new name to it and click on OK. Can you see here the first name is now the new name, and if I run it, and what does the message box show? It shows me the new name and not the old name. So what we have just done is we have modified a variable during its execution, that is during the debugging. This is a useful feature while testing of our flows. Okay, we are done with that. What's next? Subflows. Yeah, at the top menu bar where our main flows are there, next to that there is a subflow drop down. We will see it in action. But what does a subflow do? You can modularize your flow into multiple subflows so that you do not generate one big main flow of hundreds of lines of actions. This will allow you for easy debugging also. It will be more developer friendly. If another developer picks up your work, he or she will be able to understand what you're doing. And let's create and call some subflows using a demo. Now what I'll do is I'll use some of the features that we just talked about. I'll do a Control A to select all actions. You can see 4 actions. I'll do a right click on one of them and disable them. So there are no actions now. I'll create a new subflow here by using the drop down button from here and then click on new subflow. I'll call it addition. Click on save. Now this is a subflow. I'll switch back to the main window. Now what my plan is to accept two variables and perform its addition. So I rename this as number 1, give it a default value of 10. Now why did this error throw up? Because there is a space in this. A space is not allowed in a variable. Save here. I click on this. I do a Control C, Control V, a copy paste of it. Double click to edit. Change this to a different variable, number 2, and give it a different value of 20. We still need to perform the addition and call the subflow. Now there are actions for subflows. If I type subflow, let's see what it brings up. 1 to exit a subflow or 1 to run a subflow. We want to run a subflow after the variables are initialized. As soon as I drag it, it brings up properties showing me the list of already available subflows. So there is one subflow called as addition over here. I select that, click on save. Now it will initialize these two variables as 10 and 20 respectively. Call the addition subflow. The control will go over to the subflow, but we haven't performed any addition over here. So let's do a addition this time using set variable. We are going to store the addition result into a variable called result, and from the variable picker we'll perform addition of number 1. Now this time it is different. I will take two variables next to each other and show you how the addition is performed. Now after I have used the variable picker, both the variables are enclosed using %signs, but that is not the case while performing arithmetic operations. You need to enclose them within a single %sign such as this, meaning one at the beginning, one at the end, and what arithmetic operation you want to perform by using those variables. This is the right way. Clear with this part before I go ahead on save? We have separate topic on arithmetic operations in variables, but for now, is this part clear or any questions? Okay. Now it will perform the addition. We still need to display the result. We are going to do using display message box. I drag it after calling the run subflow. Title, I can leave it optional. And again, using the variable picker, my result is stored this time in a variable called result coming from a subflow. I am using the variable of a subflow in my main flow now. I double click it, result. Let me add some text. The addition is perhaps a colon, and save. Either I can do a right click run from here because this is the first line of action of main code, or simply do a run from here, but let's do a step by step so that we can see how it jumps from the main flow to the subflow. So to do that, let me press F10. The flow has started. Keep a watch on the right hand side variable panes also. Variable 10 has been initialized. Number 2 is initialized with 20. We are calling a subflow. It has jumped to the subflow. Perform the addition and store the result in result variable. Here the result is stored as 30. Once again I step through, and whatever we had printed, the addition is colon 30 is the result. Now what are the major benefits of subflow? This was a simple example, but you can build many complicated subflows using this. Now you can say something to, let's say, send email is a subflow. Let's say your bot, you have a big bot and you need to send emails at the end of the bot. You can write a subflow and call it wherever required. Then perhaps generate a report. Okay, another subflow. Then perhaps read input Excel. I'm just throwing out ideas. So I hope now you get a gist of it. These are different subflows now, different tabs are there. You can call them from the main flow. This time when you open the run subflow action, what is there in the drop down? all the other available subflows. Hope you got an idea about subflow. It helps in modularity, in debugging. Yeah, that was the demo about it. So we have 10 more minutes, and for this module we have one last slide, but that is the practical execution of all the features that we just went through. So till the time ends till 8:30, we have got 10 minutes. So whatever I did, I will keep my flow open. Can you perform all these activities on your desktop flow? Till that time, remaining you can continue at home and come back with any queries tomorrow. Sounds good? Okay. So as I mentioned, we have a variable section separately where a different data type also, but still just now since you asked, by default, Power Automate Desktop converts it based on the data you have given. Let's say if you have put 10 over here, it will make it as number. Okay. And how to verify that is, let's do it right now. I put a breakpoint over here, open the variable. I run the set variable part for number one. Let's wait for it to complete. Stop on the breakpoint. Okay, it has stopped there. I double click this. Can you see numeric value? This is the data type of that variable. Now let's do something else. I change this to a text value, and no prizes for guessing. It will obviously change it to a text data type because Pad does it by itself. However, there is also a way to give it. It has converted to text value this time and not a number. However, when we go to the variable sections while creating input output variables, we are going to see this, and here you can see the different data types explicitly you can give. But for that you need to understand why input output variables are used, why flow variables are used. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. So I click here, comment, I drag this, I put it before the action that I want. Let's say run subflow. I write here subflow to perform addition. I click on save. It comes prior to that. So you can go through. Yeah, maybe I'll give this in the chat window. So it feels as if we know just by looking when I'm doing it, but when you do it, you will face problems. Definitely. You will not know what to click, where to go. So my suggestion would definitely be doing a hands-on on the tool itself. Just check the chat window. Have you got the different bullets? Okay. Anything else coming up on your mind for the remaining 5 minutes? I mean, what all examples we did, you need to do the same thing to test all those features. How we rearranged, how we first assigned the first name, last name, called the subflow, displayed it, viewed the variables in the variables pane. Then we put a breakpoint over here, multiple breakpoints you can try. Then cutting, copying, pasting. Let's say I've seen people working for a long time on pad flows, but still they cannot cut, copy, paste at the right location. For example, taking it from here, and if I want to put it before line number 4, they copy it, put it in some other line. So this should be correct. Or rearrange. Yeah, I'll answer your question, Mayur. Just one moment. So one thing I wanted to mention is you can even I just dragged and dropped one action. You can even press Control here and select two actions at a time and drag it also. Okay, that was one thing. And for non-consecutive actions, you can press the Control key. For example, the second and fourth is what I have selected now by pressing the Control key. That is for non-consecutive actions. Whereas for successive actions, you can press the Shift key. This is what I have done using the Shift key because I have selected third and fourth actions. Is this part clear? And most importantly, save the flow. It takes a few seconds. Keep the habit of saving your flows, because if it gets into not responding mode, it might crash and you might lose your flow. So after every few lines of actions, keep a habit of saving it. All right then. Fine. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll meet you tomorrow.